First of all, tell me what happened, Ariana.
Um, yeah, so it was just a regular day going to work and Gerald is his name, but he does go by Paul, I recently found out. So Paul, I guess was in an accident. I did not see it to begin with, but when I was driving to work, I almost got into an accident because everybody was coming to a complete halt in traffic, like dead stop in the middle of the road very quickly. So when that happened, I pulled over to see what was going on because there was a lot of people looking into the water. And so I pulled over. I didn't know if it was serious or not at that time. And that's why I pulled over because I am CPR certified. I went to Kaiser University, so I have a sonography degree. But nothing, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. So I was just going to try to help if I could or where I could. But when I got there, nobody was really doing anything on the side that I was at. They were just kind of looking. So I kind of assumed that Paul was already out of the car at that time. But I was just being, one second, let me get my dog out of here. Come here, Baba. Come on, I know.
What?
Come on, come on, come on, Baba. That's it. Come
It's okay.
here.
He wants to be a part of the interview. That's not a problem.
He's a whiner. He'll just sit there and whine, and he wants cuddles. He thinks he's this big, but he's over 100 pounds, so he's not that big. But yeah, so when that happened, I was just trying to be prepared in case it wasn't what I thought it was. So I went to my car to look for something that could potentially break a window so I could I thought I was going to hand it to somebody else at that time to help, but yeah, nobody was really jumping into action. So I unfortunately didn't find anything in my car at that time. So I ran back um, to where everybody was, and a lady just yelled that she had a window breaker. Um, I actually took Paul to go get the stuff out of his truck today. He got out of the hospital. So when he got his stuff, I actually found the bright orange window breaker in the bed of his truck that I dropped when I was pulling on his belt to try to get him out of that window. So I took a picture of that with the size of the window. And the window is smaller than I thought it was. I thought it was a little bit bigger, but yeah, it was definitely smaller than I'm still, I have no words on how we got him out of that window because I wouldn't even fit through that window.
So, Dawn, tell me what it was like from your perspective.
Okay, so I'm cruising down Pineda eastbound toward the ocean. I live in Vero Beach, so I'm about a mile, like a mile, like toward Wickham Road. I'm coming south from Titusville, cross country meet. My wife and my couple kids are in the car, and I thought, I'm just going to take A1A home. So I thought, what's the best way to not get red lights? I'll go over Pineda Causeway. So I'm just cruising there. Everyone's normal. And my wife says to me, hey, look what's happening here. And we see he's directly right in front of us. And all of a sudden, he just is like slammed into the left wall. It turned the vehicle. Debris flew out of the back, like tools flew out of the back of his truck. So that started to get me to pull over to the side. And then he just launched off. And I had thought at first, okay, he launched off into the grass. We stopped right away. I said to my wife, call 911. I said, I'm going down. And I started my way down and I went, oh gosh, he's not in the grass here. He's in the water. And you could see he was starting to sink. But people then started to stop. And then I went down to make an assessment. I think I probably had 35, 45 seconds because a gentleman on the other side was saying, oh, the truck is leveled off. The truck is leveled off. And so I was waiting to see, is this thing leveling off? And this guy kept yelling, nope, it's level. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't level. And that's when I turned around to my wife and my son, who was right behind me, and I said, I have to go. And she said, yeah, you have to go. And so I jumped into the water and I swam out to the passenger side door, and it was locked. It wasn't one of those ones where you have pressure. It was locked. You could not move the lock. And then I started to feel desperate. But then I was swimming under the water, trying to like make my way, to kind of tug on this thing and see if I could break his window with my hand. And up comes this young lady right here to help me. I remember yelling before I come in, really asking for someone from the other side to meet me out there. That I don't know if you remember that, Ariana. You had me yelling, but I need help. I need you to come. Someone needs to help me or he's going to die. We can't let him die. And my wife and my kids were behind me. And I said, you need to stay here because we're going to have to pull this guy out of the water. And they said, okay. And so then we made our jumps. We met out there and we kicked right into action because what she had seen was not what I had seen because I was down underneath the water line, popped up. She had seen that he popped out of the back window. It's just his head right at first. Yeah. But right at that point, the truck went down underwater. Yeah. And so we just sprung into action. I don't even remember saying a lot to Ariana. It was just like, I mean, you could describe it. It was kind of like we just knew what was at stake.
Yeah.
we knew what was at stake.
Yeah.
And I remember just kind of looking up and seeing all these people on the bridge. And I don't remember, Ariana, I think I yelled to people, would you guys come help?
Yeah.
Like we need your help because we were struggling to keep his head above the water. Yeah. And then I think we just gathered ourselves at that point and you got yourself really mounted behind him. And I can remember seeing her, she kind of had his head on her front of her chest and she's holding him up, but at the same time, she's really trying to get him removed. She's the first one cognizant that this guy's not moving, right? So she's doing this tugging and pulling and he's right here in my chest, kind of my lap, his gut, and he's purple. And I think Ariana would tell you, we'll never forget that. He's purple. He's not breathing. I mean, his eyes are solid shut. From your perspective, Ariana, behind you, I'm trying to kind of, just hoping this kid can hang on. And he's a big guy.
Yeah.
And I'm having the luxury. I'm still kind of can lean against the roof of his vehicle, but she's right there with most of his body weight on her while I'm shoving my knees into his gut and I'm watching her head and him go underwater and she's struggling to keep him up and I'm like, can you do CPR? And then what happened, Ariana?
Yeah, when you said that, I felt so helpless at that point because the waves, I think I described to you, it was like a tide pool at like a swim park. The waves just were relentless. They never stopped. It was completely submerging his face over and over again in the water. And when you asked me to do CPR, I couldn't keep him up out of the water. I think I even tried to lunge forward and we just both went underwater. And I just knew I wasn't able to reach him to give him any type of CPR. And it felt awful. So I was just trying to tug. I didn't realize I just have to get him out of this window. So I'm just tugging as hard as I can. And I have his belt in my hand with both hands and he's laying on my
pulling his weight right into your body,
pulling and pulling. I have his belt in my hand the entire time. Even my ring fell off while that was going on, and I felt it, and I was like, "Oh man!" And then I was like, "Whatever, that is materialistic." So I kept on tugging, and eventually, when the officer got into the water and was able to hold Paul's head up, I tugged. That's when I dove underwater and I tugged him so as hard as I could. And he then came out of that window and simultaneously my ring had fell back into my hand.
But there was a moment though. Remember the moment? What I'll never forget. There was this moment and I was just looking at her and she was fighting and I was thinking in my mind, how long can she do this before she drowns, right? So I said to her, we need to pray. We need to cry out to God to save this guy's life. And I remember that we just started pleading with God out loud, God save his life. I began to whack him in the face. We were calling to him to come back to us.
Yeah.
And then what was so exciting about it is she had her, and I don't know if she even remembers this. She's got his head on her chest, and I say, like, she goes, I think I kind of feel a light pulse. And I don't know if she even remembers that, but he has like a beard. And I remember her hand under his beard. And maybe it's something I wanted to hear her say. But I remember it like it happened. And right at that moment, I saw just his eyes a little bit open. And I jammed my hand into his mouth and into his tongue while we were shoving him, and all of a sudden the salt water started coming out of his nose. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then the sheriff comes and we both yell, "He's still alive!
Yeah.
Please come help us!" Right?
Yeah. Wow. Yes.
You could take the rest from there because.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that's when, I mean, if they didn't get there when they did at that point, I don't know how much longer we would have been able to keep that up. Like you said, I was struggling to breathe at that point. I couldn't get the taste of salt water out of my mouth for days, actually. And I was struggling because he had what I got to see today when I saw his truck at the wrecker service place. He had equipment in the back of his truck, so I was standing on top of that while
Was it a saw? Was it a saw? A red saw?
No, I was curious if it was anything sharp. I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, I was standing on stuff and it was moving and floating and things were hitting me, and it was, I don't know how we did it. I really don't. That was probably one of the toughest things I've had to do in my life, but I'm very thankful for how we showed up in this experience, in this accident, this traumatic event for everybody. And I'm thankful that the officers showed up when they did and were able to do what they could do at that point, because if I didn't have somebody that was able to hold his head above water while I went underwater to tug, I don't think we would have got him out in time, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then she was a rock star when we swam him to shore, because at that point we had 3 people now and she's got him released and it was go time. So I swam underneath really his rear end and his back of his legs. I remember you kind of being on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember us getting to the wall and being so exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, how in the heck are we going to get him up, right?
Yeah.
So it took, I think, 8 people to get him up, including like my wife, my children, a bunch of sheriff's deputies. But then I think the most beautiful thing happened when they were able to give him a round of CPR. And this lady right here acted way beyond her years and literally next to that CPR held this guy's hand and talked him, I believe, back into this world. So it was awesome. It was beautiful. I know it's the first time I've really talked to her other than a few chats. So
yeah.
And when I gave her a hug there, I just I just remember
I feel like we melted. We were like, could breathe for a second. The first breath of quite literally holding your breath the whole time, because you don't know what the outcome is going to be and how serious this situation is, and is he going to come back to life, and if he does, is he going to be okay? And just when we hugged, I remember, because my mind was like, okay, they have taken over, because I remember even asking, I'm like, do you want me to move? And the paramedics and everybody said no. Because I was right, and that's when I was at his face and he had the oxygen mask on and I was getting the water out of it and I was talking to him and he was just staring straight into my eyes, and I was just trying to reassure him that, we got you, buddy. We're going to do whatever we can to make sure that you're safe, because he was tensing his body. He went into shock immediately. He was trying to get up. He was trying to move. He doesn't even remember that. I asked him if he remembered that, and he doesn't have any recollection of that. It's just a very scary situation that, thank goodness, had a better outcome than I anticipated.
I think one of the things when I hugged her, what I really, really appreciated about her was, first I thought, gosh, she's so young. How old are you? Oh, I was feeling a lot of like I really felt overwhelmed with emotion. Number one, like, what the heck just happened? And number two, he's going to live. But I think the thing that I'll never forget was when I hugged her and she said, "Do you think I'm going to get in trouble for being late for work?" And I said to her, "I think you should tell your boss what happened. You'll be okay." So I always wanted to know, when you got to work, what in the heck did you tell them, and did they believe you?
I forgot I said that. Now I remember I did say that. Yeah. I was almost joking, but I was kind of like, they have no idea. Are they going to believe me? I know there will be a story about this eventually, but I'm in the moment.
Oh,
Actually, after that, when I walked off, I was just walking back to my car and I called my boss immediately and I was like, "You'll never guess what happened." And she was so confused. She even asked me, she was like, "So are you soaking wet?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm soaked. I lost my work shoes," and I was trying to just joke about it for a second because it was the first couple minutes I just realized what happened because I was just in go mode for that, however long it seemed forever, but however long it was. And so, yeah, I went to work. I worked a double that day. I was there for like 9 hours or so. And
you're awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I'll never forget that day, kid. You really
Yeah,
did.
me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah,
Stuck with me.
yeah. Whether we like it or not,
Right,
we're
literally.
gonna have this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You two have
anyway, thank you, Tiffany. We just really haven't talked to each other, and it's overwhelming, really. So,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you two made it out okay. I'm so glad you were able to help him make it out of there. What an incredible situation. And Ariana, you said the two of you, the guy that you guys helped save, you've reconnected with, you helped him get his stuff out of his truck. How were you two able to reconnect?
So I found him on Facebook, and I had contacted the hospital to see if I was able to visit him. I didn't know if there was visitor restrictions or anything in the ICU. They told me if I found his last name that I was able to visit. So that's what I did. I found it on Facebook. And the day after I got off of work and I went and got a bouquet of flowers, and I was looking for a teddy bear because I don't know why, but I just correlated him with a teddy bear for some reason, but
he was big.
yeah. But I ended up getting him a dinosaur because I couldn't find a teddy bear, and I just walked up there and introduced myself and just sat with him for about an hour or so, and we had a conversation, and I got to know him a little bit, and I just wanted to help him, so I was just trying to ask and see where the boundaries were, and I didn't want to overstep, but I would love to do a benefit for him, and we were able to do that. So we're actually having one October 13th this year for Paul. Yeah.
That is so incredible. When you showed up and, introduced yourself, what did he have to say? Like, how did he respond to that? Did he remember you?
No, he was in shock. I think the first thing, I said, I actually called him Gerald, and he goes by Paul, and he later told me, but I said Gerald, and he just opened his eyes because he was sleeping, and he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Hi," and I just told him my name, and I said I was Ariana Ebert. I was the one that helped you out along with Don Cobb. Can I sit down and talk to you for a second? And he said, "Yeah," and we just started talking. I feel like this experience has made me some lifelong friends. Whether we talk every day or talk every year, I don't think really matters because it's something that we all share in common now.
You got it.
That's absolutely incredible. Dawn, what do you think you'll take away from it?
I think what I'm going to take away from that is, I have 8 children, and I've been around a lot longer than her. So my big takeaway is I'm really encouraged about really her generation. And, so often her generation gets a bad rap. Young people get a bad rap. And I think what she has kind of renewed for me was there are people that are willing to get in the fight, say yes, um, jump in. There's still a lot of compassion. And you can't say enough about that, really. Um, Even when I asked, some 10 of my friends, would you have jumped in with me? And all of them mostly said only if it was a spouse or their own child. So my big takeaway is she's amazing. And I hope she realizes that. Maybe she realized it before that day, but I think your destiny is going to change. I think there's something else out there that you're supposed to do that maybe you didn't know you needed to do. And I hope you go and do it because there's so few people who will say yes to something like this. So that's my big takeaway. I'm going to just leave it there on you, child, grown woman now, but you have a great future. I really mean that. I really
Thank
believe
you, John.
that. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And likewise, you are an amazing human being that chose to step up, not step out. And I couldn't be more thankful for that.
Yeah, you're awesome.
That's so incredible. I'm so glad you two decided to take the time to share your story with us. Thank you for just putting voice to what happened that day. And I'm sure it won't be the last we hear of you guys. I know that you're having a benefit, Ariana, and looking at organizing that. So I hope we'll be able to touch base with you again surrounding that event.
Perfect.
We've gone a long time, but I think the thing Ariana both and I share about this is I don't know that we would have ever jumped in and people would have known who would have done this. But I first commented on the story after I saw all the mean things that were being said about this incident. And I thought, you know what, we needed to bring some humanity into the conversation on that website. So, but I think we're both the kind of people that would have just moved on quietly. Wouldn't you agree, Ariana? And
Yeah, absolutely.
just did our good deeds in the dark, right? So,
Yeah, this is more than I expected. Way
yeah,
more than I expected. And I just want to redirect the light onto helping Paul get back on his feet because he did lose a lot. He didn't lose his life, thank goodness, but he did lose a lot in this. And any help for him, I completely support. And just be kind to people. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be small, everyday little things, but just try to be kind.
awesome.
You guys are fantastic and a walking example of kindness and really taking action. So again, thank you so much. I really, really
Yeah,
appreciate the two of you.
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you. Good night, Ariana.
Good
Love
night.
meeting you.
Nice
Bye-bye.
to meet you. Bye.